Stress causes or exacerbates more than 80% of all illness. I wanted to know why in the hospital, when the real main tools we have are medications and surgery, once we stabilize people physically, why were we not asking them, what's at the root of your stress? And my colleagues, when I asked them this question, what they said to me was, just like you wouldn't order a diagnostic test that you didn't know what to do with the results, why would you ask people a question that you didn't know what to do with the answer? So I made it my quest to figure out what's at the root of my stress. And as I've worked with tens of thousands of patients, I now have figured out how I would help them answer that question. And the way that I help them answer it is wherever you are, from burned out to fully charged, wherever you are on that spectrum, because we're all somewhere on that spectrum throughout our life, you can figure it out by whether you have a net gain or a net drain of energy on a physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual level.
Hi, I'm Kelly Namiro. Welcome to the Balancing Chaos podcast, a lifestyle podcast where we'll talk about wellness, motherhood, and some really exciting things in between. My goal is to help you develop a lifestyle that promotes health, wholeness, and success. Through my conversations with our experts and guests, I hope to inspire you to live a beautiful, full, and joyful life as you navigate balancing the chaos. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Balancing Chaos podcast. I am here today and I am so excited and honored to have Dr. Neha Sangwan, MD and CEO and founder of Intuitive Intelligence. Dr. Sangwan is not only an internal medicine physician, but also a corporate communication expert, international speaker, and author of the book Powered by Me. She has a very unique perspective on healing burnout and has dedicated herself to empowering individuals and organizational leaders with tools for clear communication and addressing the root cause of stress, miscommunication, and burnout. And so I'm really excited because, as you guys know, this is a big part of my background with all of the hormonal imbalances that I've dealt with in the past. And I can't wait to talk through some clear strategies on how to heal, because I know that's something that a lot of you guys are going through. And I know that like a lot of people from your background, specifically going through medical school and all of that, probably hit that burnout cycle. I've heard it from countless doctors that I've interviewed. Is that really what got you to the place where you were like, okay, I need to make this my mission? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I think I was a people pleaser from a very young age. And I think that I pushed through my own body rather than partnered with it. I've been doing that for decades. It happened to manifest itself by the time I was 33 years old because I was in medicine and things were so intense.
Right.
I think it probably would have happened in my 40s and 50s if I had chosen a different profession, right? It was
Sure.
going to happen. But I'm really grateful that it happened so early, because that means I get the lesson early. I get to learn.
Yeah.
And now I'm 53. It's 20 years later and I've got a book. So I think in the end, for those of us that are all or none, for those of us that care so deeply about what other people's definition of success is, and we haven't slowed down to pay attention to what we think success means.
Right.
I think we're on that track.
Why are so many of us, especially women, more, and I mean, maybe I'm wrong, maybe there are a lot of men out there, but I hear a lot because I have so many female clients, have a tendency to more of that people pleasing, like push my body through, even though it's telling me something. Like, why are we so much more like that than, let's say, males or the other gender? Because I look at my husband and he's like, I'm tired, I'm gonna sleep in today, or I'm like, I'm gonna do what I want to do.
Yeah. Well, I think a bit of it is biological, which is
Sure.
when we're forming in our mother's womb, where, boys get testosterone, we get oxytocin. And so from a pure biological level, oxytocin is the friend and tend and befriend hormone.
Yeah.
So it's almost the equivalent of, if like a building's burning, testosterone is like, get the heck out of here. Oxytocin is like, does everyone have their coats? Okay, come on, let's go. Like we are biologically wired differently. And so that's
Yeah.
one piece. The second piece is, socially and culturally, be a good girl.
Yeah.
We get it from many different arenas. And
Mm.
I think in the end, what ends up happening is our need to belong, our role in the world of nurturing, mothering, sistering, soul sistering, whatever we do, it becomes part of our identity. Movies, books, so many different areas in our life reinforce this. And I think if we don't have something pretty big happen to us where we need to slow down, take a real hard look at what's happening in our lives and how we're showing up in it, we almost automatically just float down the river of, oh, yeah, 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 we're going to go that way. And
Yeah.
we're going to show up that way because that's what a good girl does.
Yeah. And we've talked about that aspect of things on the show before with other guests, but no one has ever mentioned the like chemical, like biological hardwiring of boys in the womb versus girls in the womb. And so I think that piece is really, really interesting. I think that the other piece of it, and I mentioned in the intro, when we like decided to do this interview together, and I was looking through your book, I'm like, oh my gosh, I resonate so much with what she's saying. And I didn't go to medical school, but I did go to college, and then I went to graduate school. I got my MBA in New York. And I feel like through all of that, and then a lot of the pressure that I was putting on my physical body through an eating disorder, the burnout piece happened to me at a very young age as well, where I was experiencing all of these symptoms, from losing my hair to feeling exhausted to losing my period, like all of these different things. And I think that women are actually starting, and I shouldn't say just women, I should say people are starting to feel this younger and younger, or just more so in general. We hear about burnout way more often than I think we did even 20 years ago. Is that a product, in your opinion, of social media and us watching what everybody else is doing? Is it a product of the hustle culture and why are so many more people experiencing this now more than ever?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, so once again, I'm going to say it's multifactorial.
Sure.
And I believe that, so first of all, we come into this world biologically needing to belong
Yeah.
to one another as fundamentally as anything else we need: food, water, sleep, right? We want to belong, and we want to be here and be with others and feel accepted, seen, heard. So we grow up in a world where we're helpless, and how fast our diaper gets changed, how quickly people come to get us when we cry. We look at them and we realize when we can make them laugh and we can make them smile, we get our needs taken care of too.
Mm.
Then we grow up a little bit more, and now it's siblings and it's our parents, and we realize that we get ice cream and a hug when we get an A, and when we win our soccer game, and all this like love and affection, right? Attachment to others starts to compete as we grow up with our own authenticity.
Mm.
And from a very young age, we think it is life or death to make sure we stay attached.
Yeah.
And so we
Yeah.
often give up our own authenticity. And I think it's really important to notice that in our teen years, we shift from caring what our parents think to caring what kicks we're wearing, and, what
Wednesday.
outfit and what's the coolest, music to be listening to in our car. And so now it's our peers that we start to do it with.
Yeah.
We get even older and it becomes college, our sororities, our whatever it is that is the next thing, all the way to where we're working and our life partnerships, right?
Right.
And oftentimes, if people don't slow down and actually get to know themselves, if they don't have any kind of a crisis or something happen where they are startled out of that whole pattern, they believe what society says. Here's some of those beliefs: faster is better, do more with less, profit over people, success requires struggle. And if we care so deeply about belonging, we are immersed in these beliefs in so many different ways that we just assume it's true. And so now with AI and technology and social media, and we don't just know the local news, we don't just know the evening news, we know 24/7 news, right? We don't just know what our friends are doing, we know what our friends are doing. And so there's this huge expansion with the internet, with social media, with AI. If faster is better, we are all collectively creating an external world that's faster and faster and faster and faster. Now, what we've forgotten about is, what about your biology?
Mm.
Because we've never put into context the beings that will be utilizing this. Mother Nature built the most sophisticated machinery there is, and that's us.
Yeah.
And we have to rely on feedback loops and error messages in our hormonal systems, in our immune systems. We are supposed to exert, and then we are supposed to rest. In fact, rest 1/3 of our lives.
Yeah.
And so we're building this belief system where more is better and faster and, all of this, but like, to what end? And I believe that burnout is accelerating at a much quicker pace because we don't check in with our own bodies when we wake up in the morning to see if we feel rested. We look at our readiness score on our technology to see if we slept well. Like, how did I do today? How did I do? As if the answers are not already within us.
100%. I could not agree with you more. Like, people ask me all the time on social media. They're like, "Oh, like, what do you think about like the Aura ring?" Or like, and it's like, that's going to stress me out more to know like that my score was a 60 whatever, like instead of a 95. Like I will be more stressed out. Like, I can check in with myself and say, "Hey, how do I feel today?" And I think that a lot of that for me comes from, again, like having gone through disordered eating and being really disconnected from my body through that process. But coming back to it afterwards, it's like, oh, it feels so much better to make choices throughout my day that are based on me being connected to myself, my body, what it needs. And so I want to ask a little bit, because you were talking a little bit about the hormonal systems, the immune system, stuff like that. But before we do that, when we think about this idea of getting back into connection with yourself after you've lost it, how does somebody go about doing that?
Well, when you're young, any experience you have that feels like it's perceived helplessness.
Yeah.
It can be anything as traumatic as an accident, sexual abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse, absence of a parent, a divorce when people are young, whatever it is, a loss, being shamed in a classroom, anything. It can be anything where you feel humiliated, shamed, helpless. It can be as simple as you being the fourth child and nobody creating a baby album for you and nobody's paying attention. So it can be that you didn't have a need be met. It can be some marked milestone in your life for trauma, and it can be that your needs weren't being met. When we have this experience, we start to adjust. You know how I just spoke to you about attachment versus authenticity?
Yeah.
Well, we can't believe that the caretakers around us are actually doing something wrong. So we must believe that it must be something we are not doing. And so we choose attachment over authenticity, start blaming ourselves, right? And it leads us down a whole another path. What I would say is the most important thing is, when I was young, whenever the pain inside me exceeded my ability to handle it, I disconnected from my body. So When I'm little, I'm Indian. My family, thinks nothing of handing me around to the extended family. Everybody does it. That's just kind of what we do. 3 months old, my mom hands me to my grandmother. I go to Africa. My grandfather's stationed with the United Nations on assignment there. And for the first 3 months to 2 years of my life, I'm living in Africa.
Wow.
I come back, and now I think that's my parents. But in fact, I'm coming back into an older sister, 18 months older than me, and a mom and a dad. And I am so distraught. I don't stop crying for a month.
Wow.
When I realized no matter how much I was going to cry, my grandparents weren't coming back to me.
Right.
I checked out of my body.
Yeah.
I went right into my head, and I started to realize, and I started getting bullied. I started to realize that I better please the people around me very quickly if I was going to be without pain. And if I was going to make sure nobody else sent me away again. What did I do wrong to be sent away? I didn't know. So I became a really big people pleaser that carried on to a lot of my life. Now, that came to a head 20 years ago when I burned out. I was such a people pleaser that anytime somebody asked me in the hospital or otherwise, Neha, will you do this? Before I even heard what they were saying, I was like, sure, yeah, I'll do it. Because I want to get an A. I want to be a team player. I want no one to send me away. So until you become conscious of your own childhood blueprint, of the times when you felt helpless, of the times you had perceived helplessness, that there was trauma or a need not being met, you are a genius for figuring out ways to have survived it.
Yeah.
And so when you speak, even, you said an eating disorder, and I had disordered eating, and well, oftentimes that comes from even just comfort food. Let's just take it to something simple.
Yeah.
If I eat mint chocolate chip ice cream, okay, every time I feel unloved, I'm eating bonbons on the couch or mint chocolate chip ice cream. Anytime I get that feeling in my chest and in my stomach of feeling lonely. Okay. And I eat it, and all of a sudden I feel better. I can shift how I feel. I'm like, nurturing myself. One of the exercises I do in the burnout course is I have everybody bring their favorite comfort food. Do you know what your favorite comfort food is? The one thing that can really just make you feel better?
Pizza. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah.
Love
Right.
pizza.
Yeah, right? It's like, oh, it's like perfect symphony in your mouth. Okay. Mine, one of them is mint chocolate chip ice cream. Okay.
Beautiful.
So what I do is I have people look at it, touch it, smell it, really kind of mindfully look at this thing that has been a savior for them. Really, at times when they didn't know how to shift how they were feeling. Okay. When they put it in their mouth, by then they're like totally salivating. But they put it in their mouth, and I asked them to tell me the first three emotions that they feel. For me, it was safety, comfort, and love.
Yes.
Then comes the real question here is flip it. Where in your life do you not feel safe? Do you feel unloved? Right? Where are you experiencing discomfort?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. I'm not against pizza, and I'm not against mint chocolate chip ice cream. I think they're all amazing.
Yeah.
I don't want to need them. I want to choose them so I can enjoy them.
Right. And it's
so
like, no matter how much pizza I'm eating, that's not solving the discomfort either.
Yeah, there's not enough
right?
mint chocolate chip ice cream in the world to make me feel loved.
That's not me moving through it in an actually proactive way. So I love those questions.
So it's tied to our unmet emotions. It's tied to our unhealed traumas. And so the first thing that I would say to people is start by understanding the language of your body. I'm not against wearable devices. I like them as data. They should be additional data. They should not be the data.
Yeah.
Where you are looking at your number to see how you feel. It should be the other way around. Like, wow, I feel really rested today. I bet it's an 88. I bet you it's a 93. Like, check in with yourself first, because our ancestors knew that them being tuned into their instincts, them hearing a rustling in the trees, was the difference between life and death.
Yeah.
We now think missing a social media post, right, is the difference between us being in the know and us not being in the know.
Oh my gosh, 100%. I love that. And I think that it's a really I think that like what you're talking about in terms of looking at almost like your coping mechanisms. So for a lot of people, it's comfort food. It could be scrolling on social media. It could be online shopping, whatever it is, like looking at those coping mechanisms and asking yourself those same questions that you posed with the comfort eating. It's like, what is this allowing you to feel? And where in your life are you feeling the uncomfortable feelings? I think is a really
The
great way to
opposite of it,
start. Yeah.
right?
To get more connected with
So it's
yourself.
like if it's retail therapy and you know you're spending too much money, anytime you don't feel good. So I don't feel like I belong. I'm feeling lonely. I feel like a misfit, whatever's happening. So when I buy XYZ, I feel like I fit in. I feel like I belong. I feel like, I'm interesting. So then the real question is, the flip of that, which is, tell me, where in your life, who are you hanging out with and where do you not belong?
Yeah.
Right? Where are you trying to fit in rather than belong?
Beautifully said. I love these types of like curiosity based questions rather than jumping straight to judging yourself. With all of that being said, because I think that so many people are experiencing the symptoms. This is what I get a lot on like discovery calls when I'm meeting new people of like, I'm exhausted all the time. My digestion is a mess. Like I'm super bloated, all of these different things that I know that I personally went through, but they're not the connecting the dots with the fact that they're overly stressed out. And people want to have a diet plan and they want to have the supplements and they want to have like the workouts that they should do. But like so many people are not willing to one, be aware, and two, say, okay, maybe I should do something about this because it is burnout. So I know that technically in the medical field, adrenal fatigue is not a real term. It's HPA axis dysfunction. Talk to us a little bit about the medical behind it all, the symptoms, and what people should be looking out for if they really are in a place of burnout.
Sure. So I'd start with stress causes or exacerbates more than 80% of all illness.
Wow. Wow.
Stress causes or exacerbates more than 80% of all illness. So I wanted to know why in the hospital, when the real main tools we have are medications and surgery, once we stabilize people physically, why were we not asking them, what's at the root of your stress? And my colleagues, when I asked them this question, what they said to me was, just like you wouldn't order a diagnostic test that you didn't know what to do with the results, why would you ask people a question that you didn't know what to do with the answer? And that was 20 years ago. And that's when I decided, because we're really smart individuals and people are depending on us to figure this out.
Yeah.
So I made it my quest to figure out what's at the root of my stress. And as I've worked with tens of thousands of patients, I now have figured out how I would help them answer that question. And the way that I help them answer it is wherever you are, from burned out to fully charged, wherever you are on that spectrum, because we're all somewhere on that spectrum throughout our life.
Yeah.
You can figure it out by whether you have a net gain or a net drain of energy on a physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual level. And I'm happy to give your audience a burnout assessment where they can go through it on a physical, mental, emotional, social, spiritual, figure out whether they have a net gain or a net drain of energy. So we'll give them that.
Okay, that'd be great. I'll link that up in the show notes.
Sure. And so stress is a huge deal. And figuring out what's at the root of it, a lot of times people just want a prescription from their coach, from their doctor, from whoever it is, like the consultant, like just tell us how to fix it. Except what they don't realize is your body has a unique language that it's using to speak to you. Like when I get outside my comfort zone, my throat constricts and my stomach turns.
Mm.
Do you know what it is for you? As soon as you get
Oh,
outside your comfort zone, what is it?
it's the same. Like I feel a lot of tense, muscle tension in my shoulders and my like upper traps. And then same, I get like my stomach starts to get all whacked out. So those two things. And it's funny that you mentioned that because it's something that I was talking about with a group of women I was teaching recently. I think that a lot of us don't even know what our own stress response is. So being aware of that is a really great indicator. But please continue. Sorry.
Yeah. So chapter 4 of my book is literally called Decipher Your Body's Unique Language.
Mm,
Because where we have to start is I can't decipher it for you, and
yeah.
you can't decipher it for me. And you and I may have some overlap in our gut and our stomach, but yours is your shoulders and mine is my throat.
Right.
And so only we can know how the unique language of our body. And then it's our job to decipher it. So
Right.
I told you when I was little, I had that experience where I was sent away and then I came back. Well, when I started sharing how I was feeling, nothing was changing. And they were like, oh my God, what's wrong with her? I learned to shut it all down. So my emotions, my voice, everything shut down, which is when all of this constriction is happening.
Right.
So I'm not speaking my truth. So now, if I'm ever in a meeting, if I'm ever having a conversation and all of a sudden my throat constricts, the first question I ask myself is, Neha, what is it that you're holding back saying?
Mm,
Because now I know that that is what is going on.
yeah.
Right. And so each of us has to connect whether what environments our body is open, relaxed, and light, and in what circumstances and environments is it constricted, heavy, tight, quicksand, uncomfortable. So when those are first question is the first question is, how is your body communicating with you?
Mm,
Right? Because your body's talking. The question is, are you listening?
yeah. And I think that what you're saying too is really interesting is that that's like, those are the first signs. So those are the first signals that you want to be aware of. And I think that we all can experience those things, maybe not day to day, but like more often than not. And then those things build upon themselves. If you don't listen,
They get
the
louder.
messages get louder. And that's what I was talking about at the beginning, like with my hair falling out and my my digestion being all over the place and being super bloated. Like the messages get louder if you're not
Yep.
listening.
Okay, here's the kicker. Yes. And sometimes your hair falling out is a physical cause, like you need more nutrients, you
Sure.
need the thyroid. I mean, there's lots of reasons
Right.
why people have hair loss. And then there is the non-physical causes.
Mhm.
When you have unresolved mental, emotional, social, and spiritual, you're out of alignment. And that's the stress. You aren't sleeping. And therefore, everything's out of whack, right?
Mhm.
And you start having these other experiences because you're out of balance.
Mhm.
You're sometimes when you go to the doctor, let's say someone says, I have this chest discomfort. And you go to the doctor and the doctor takes it very seriously, does an EKG, normal EKG, does checks to make sure you're not having a heart attack, puts you on a treadmill and walks you, right? And at the end, they say, good news, nothing's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Okay. The problem is I'm still having chest discomfort. So when you tell me nothing's wrong with me, I'm starting not to believe you. Like something's wrong with me. But what the doctor really needs to be saying is this. There's good news and there's bad news. Here's the good news. The electrical rhythm of your heart is normal. Your heart is physically pumping well. So your physical heart is doing great. I'm hearing, here's the bad news. You're having this chest discomfort. And I'm wondering, is there something on a mental, emotional, social, and spiritual level that's unresolved for you that is showing up in your physical body to get your attention?
And that is like, I feel like the crux of what we're missing. And
Mhm.
this could be a whole nother conversation in Western medicine because
Mhm.
we're not addressing those social, spiritual, emotional aspects. It's like, this is your heart and your heart is not connected to anything else. Like we're going to put it in this one little box and like,
Yep.
that's the issue. It's not like holistic. We're not looking at it from that holistic
Yeah, I
perspective.
mean, 6, 7 years ago, I ended up with, I ingested a parasite. I was abroad traveling. Actually, it was the beginning of me writing Powered by Me,
Yeah.
the book. And I went away on a retreat and I started writing. I was in Bali. I was I went to India. I don't know where I picked up a parasite, but some unfiltered water somewhere.
Right.
I end up with a parasite that strips my gut lining.
Oof.
And I become, for the next 2 years, all these weird, funky things are happening with my skin. And what I am curious about and what I am thinking is, where did this come from? What is going on? And so the doctors start giving me, my colleagues start giving me steroid cream. So steroids are one of traditional medicine's magic bullets. Think about this. When someone has trouble breathing and they have reactive airways, we give them inhaled steroids. Okay. When someone has a rash on their skin and we want to make it go away, we give them steroid cream. When they have joint pain and there's inflammation in their joint, we inject steroids. And when it's an autoimmune, something much bigger, rheumatoid arthritis, something, we have them ingest oral steroids. What do steroids do? Now, I want to say steroids are useful in the right patient for the right ailment for the right amount of time. What they do is they shut down your immune system from alarming you that something's wrong.
Mm.
You need sometimes for the inflammation to go down. You need sometimes to buy time for someone. But the over and over again shutting down your immune system is not solving why you have this problem. The other issue is that my skin issues were connected to my gut imbalance.
Mm-hmm.
And I developed more than 200 food
Oh
sensitivities.
my God.
And no matter how much steroids you give me, I would blow up probably. And I would have gained a lot of weight around my midsection. I would have been all puffy, but we never would have actually gotten to the root of it, which is
Right.
we need to rebuild my gut flora.
Mm-hmm.
And so the gut is connected to everything, just by the way, but certainly skin issues, autoimmune issues. You have to be talking about how we are an integrated system.
Mm-hmm.
But what we did and what we learned in medical school was, oh, it's something's wrong with your skin, go to a dermatologist. Oh, something's wrong with your
Yeah.
heart, go to a cardiologist. Like we slice and dice us. And really, I think the name of the game moving forward is really looking at the integrated system of us. That's physically. Now, what you and I are talking about is let's look at the integrated system of physical, mental, emotional, social, spiritual, and us as human beings, which is the social, our own connection. So
Mm-hmm.
what we're doing is we're kind of going with the whole concentric circle of how things are connected. And when you are not getting the answer you need, don't be discouraged. It just means that you aren't addressing it on the level at which it was created. So
Right.
keep looking.
I completely agree. I think that if you're not getting the answer, keep searching, maybe find a new provider, maybe do some research on your own, whatever it is, because I go back to what you said at the very beginning of this idea of like 80% of chronic disease is either like influenced or
It's caused or exacerbated by stress.
exacerbated by stress. And I think that if we think about it that way, it's like, oh, well,
What's at
so
the root
much
my
of this,
stress?
yeah, like what is that doing to my skin, to my digestion, to my energy, all of these different things.
Hi, I'm Kelly Namiro, your host, certified holistic hormone coach, and Pilates instructor for the WBK method. You can consider me your guide in helping you curate the very best version of yourself from the inside out. feeling physically better by optimizing your hormones, to feeling mentally and emotionally better by creating a more deep and grounded connection with yourself. I get questions all the time in my DMs about things like, what supplements should I be taking for my menopause symptoms? Or is it normal that I'm always exhausted? My doctor said that's what happens as I get older. Or maybe I gained 20 pounds in the last couple of years and I have no idea how to lose it. And even I'm chronically bloated and I've tried every elimination diet. Please help. But here's the thing. There are no quick fixes out there. Until you know the root cause of what's going on in your body and you use precision supplementation, a targeted diet, and mindset and lifestyle changes that are specific to your unique circumstances and lab values, you're never going to be able to heal. Throwing just random supplements that make all these promises or a restrictive diet and a weight issue is never going to work because it's not focused on what's going on internally with you. And often we can make the problem worse when we do these things. And that's why I've created the WBK Lab Review Package. In this package, you'll receive lab kits and a custom lab form based on your symptoms and health history. Once you've completed the saliva kit for your adrenals, the stool kit for your gut health, and the blood tests for your hormones and other health markers, we'll sit down together and create a customized plan that will help you balance your hormones in a holistic way so that you can lose weight, have more energy, maintain a balanced mood, and achieve the results that you've been wanting. This year, it is time to get the results that you've been dreaming of because you're targeting your unique system. If you're ready to experience more energy, comfort, confidence in your body, and relief from those nagging symptoms that have been bringing you down, I would love to support you in doing just that. This program includes a one-on-one call between you and me, all of the labs needed to create your customized protocol, and a PDF with your unique plan that you'll be following going forward so that you can take your time in implementing your new diet, supplements, and lifestyle changes. To learn more about this, head to the link in the show notes or go to wellnessbykelly.com to learn more about the WBK Lab Review.
So you mentioned the book, and in the book, you kind of delve into some of the mind traps that when you were talking about that assessment where you're like, is it an energy drain or are you in a surplus or whatever? You talk about these mind traps that keep people in an energy drain, that keep people stuck. Can you talk about what some of those mind traps are, maybe give an example of a few of them and how people can shift towards a more empowered mindset? How does mindset affecting us?
Sure. Well, why don't we just take a simple one, right?
Okay.
Your thoughts that run on repeat. So we have approximately 70,000 thoughts a day, and 90 to 95% of them are the same as yesterday.
Wild.
So let's talk about our thoughts. We were talking about food earlier. We were talking about, when I write a book, this is my second book. My first book was on how you heal conflict, and it's called Talk RX. It's how you heal conflict and how your physical health is connected to your mental, emotional, social, spiritual. The second book is the one that we're talking about, which is Powered by Me, From Burned Out to Fully Charged at Work and in Life. Every time I write one of these books, I gain 15 pounds. Why do I gain 15 pounds? Because I am so stationary for so long, and I keep asking for chai. I love chai. Okay. Coconut milk chai. It's like one of my childhood loves, and it comforts me as I have a lot to do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what happens is now it's time to go out and launch the book. So now I'm going to be speaking and I'm going to be touring and all of these things, but I don't fit in my favorite jeans. Okay. So what starts right here is Neha, you're fat. Neha, I cannot believe you. Look at this. I don't even want to go out in public now. Oh my God, you've gained weight. Okay. So what happens really interestingly is our mind separates from our body, and we are at war with ourselves internally.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided, well, that's not really fair, because I'm the one who put this food in my mouth, drank all this chai, right? And my mind kept saying, you got to keep going, you got to keep going, you got to keep going. So my body listened, and now it's getting beaten up. Okay. So I decided, rather than calling myself all those judgmental names and feeling like I'm not worthy and all of this awfulness that starts, I decided to change my thoughts. And now this is what I say to myself. Neha, when I can't button up my jeans, I say to my body, thank you, body, for expanding to absorb the stress that I couldn't. As soon as I am ready, I will take over.
It's beautiful. That's so, so true. It's like when you give yourself that compassion, everything in your life can start to change. And you understand, like, it's a moment in time. It's something you're going through. It's something you are doing in order to have this beautiful piece of work come out of you. Like it's a product of that, and it doesn't mean it's going to be forever. I think that oftentimes, and I think that also goes back to so much of childhood, the whole like inability to offer ourselves compassion. It comes back to what you were talking about, this idea of wanting to belong. We're trying to like protect ourselves from having to experience hurt from or judgment from anyone else. And so we say those things to ourselves.
Yeah. And I think most stress comes from us dividing within ourselves. So when my mind starts beating up my body for what my mind said, which was like, I need chai, I need this, I want more, keep going, you can't stop, I know you're tired, you got to keep going. So my mind becomes a little bit of a dictator. And then after the body does its job and so beautifully expands to absorb the stress that I can't, I start beating up the body for the job that it just did for me.
Right.
So when we want something in our heart, when we long for something, and our mind tells us we can't have it, or you're not good enough, you can't do that, nuh-uh, whatever it is, right? We start to divide again. Yeah. So sometimes the division is between our mind and body. Sometimes it's between our mind and heart. You know, sometimes it's our spirit. Sometimes it's what we know to be true and what we think the world needs, whether it's our creative art, whether it's what we value, relationships, whatever it is. Our spirit tells us what matters to us, and our mind says something like, you can't make money at that. Like, what do you mean? I know you think that's your gift. That's not something you make money at, and just shoots us down. And so, listen, in the world, we are all mirrors. We are in a world divided, probably more than we've known in our lifetime. But I think it's because inside us, we are divided.
I think I think we've talked on this podcast to so many different people about stress and exhaustion but like no one has ever really brought up this idea of being internally at conflict and that being such a major source of stress for so many of us. And just the example that you shared of like, oh, well, I want to do this. This is my talent. And then it's like, no, that's not going to make money. Or like, I want to go do this thing, but like, no, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be spending time with your family. There's so many different examples of how that can play out and like all of the shoulds that you carry around with you and how that causes stress. I think that's a really, really powerful one right there.
Well, listen, if you're looking outside to get the answers to what you should be doing, you are driftwood in the ocean, going whatever way the wind blows. That means every room you walk into, every conversation you have, every person you're interacting with is going to have a different idea, and that's going to take you in a different direction. Now, my hope for you is that each one of us becomes a sailboat with a rudder, where we are influenced by the wind, but we're charting our own course, our own path. And that comes from knowing what matters to you. That's about knowing your highest values. It's about knowing in what order you value them. Like an example would be, right? I run a business, and is making money important to me? You bet, because without money, my business can't run and my work can't get out to the world. So it matters to me. I also care about excellence. I also care about people and the support that we create for each other. Now, if I know in my heart that I care the most about people and the strength of relationships and how cared for people feel on my team, followed by excellence, followed by money. Okay. Let's say they're the top three. Okay. Now a decision comes along, which is, Should I spend the extra money to make it really unique and special as I launch my book? Maybe it's like a gift box or a custom bookmark, or who knows what it is. If I want to do something special for my team, and I know that this would like create a level of excellence in delivering it to them, I probably would spend the money to make those two things happen. But when you don't know what you value and in what order you value it, everything becomes, what do you think I should do? And what do you think I should do? And oh my God, but she said I should do this. And I mean, oh my God. And then you get into decision fatigue.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh.
And that's a big drain of energy and a big stress. My mom said my sister does X, Y. You know what I mean? It's like, it's endless.
It's endless. And I love that you gave that example of the threes, because when I was doing private coaching, which was not that long ago, one of the very first exercises I would have people do would be because change is hard for people especially when it comes to their health. It would be like, what are your top 3 values? And are the things that you're doing day to day, especially if somebody was burnout or overwhelmed, like, are the things that are in your calendar, your meetings, your social events, the things that you're doing every day, are they in alignment with those top 3 values? And if they're not, you can kiss them goodbye, for at least for right now. It doesn't have to mean that's forever. These don't have to be your values forever, but they might be right now in your life. And if health is one of them, are you spending time on the weekends prepping your meals? Are you spending time daily moving your body in some way, or meditating and so whatever it is? Because if you're not, and you're doing stuff like, I don't know, I'm just going to give an example, like being on the PTA, when that's not one of your values right now, like, you have to reassess. And that is where so much of this overwhelm and burnout comes from us. So I think that that's such a great, like, tangible tool to give people to walk away from in this episode. We also talked, like you mentioned your other book, and you and I were talking a bit before we started recording about this idea of conflict resolution. And I will tell you, something I didn't mention is that I am probably one of, like, that is something to this day I'm working on, is I'm so conflict avoidant. And maybe it's something from childhood, like, who really knows? But I think that what can happen for a lot of people is that, and what happens especially for me, speaking from experience, is that I will stuff these things down and I'll get upset or frustrated. This literally just happened last night, and I'm telling my husband, I'm like venting to him, and I'm like, I can't believe this person, and this person. And he's like, why don't you just tell them how you feel? And I'm like, what a novel idea. So can you talk to us a little bit about what that is when we're doing that and we're repressing, we're conflict avoidant, whether that's at work or at home, what that's doing to our health, and what is like your best strategy to start to be able to do that, to whether it's set a boundary or tell someone how you feel or whatever it is.
Yeah, so this is definitely my book, Talk RX. Talk RX, 5 steps to honest conversations that create connection, health, and happiness.
Beautiful.
Hay House published this, and I got the rights back last year. So it's in Audible, but it might be a little harder to find in print. So it's on Audible, and I'm the one who reads it. But here's what I'll say about that. You and I, if we have conflict between us, if you talk about me to your husband, not to me, that's called a drama triangle.
Okay.
And so what happens is it's like a house of cards. It's always going to run. It's going to keep going, and it'll never get solved. Now, your husband is awesome because he's actually not participating in the drama triangle. What he's saying is he's being empathic to you. He's like, oh, honey, I'm really sorry that that's happening. And then he redirects you back to the person with whom you're having this experience. Right. So he says, why don't you have a conversation with them instead of doing this? Oh my God, what a jerk. They are so awful. Oh my God, let me tell you about a time when they did that to me. And then add gasoline on the fire. Okay. So what I want to give your husband kudos for is he's not letting the drama triangle.
No, not at all.
Going and growing. He steps right out of that, and it's like a house of cards. It falls. Okay. The second piece is, if you and I have conflict, the conflict is between us. Okay. That's where it resides, like right here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But if I choose not to say anything to you about it because I want the conflict to go away, the conflict doesn't go away. It actually grows bigger, except it changes location. Now it's not between us, it's actually within me. I have swallowed the conflict and it is growing bigger and bigger. And now it is inside me. Every time I see you, every time your name comes up on caller, on the phone, I see an email, anything with your name on it, it all is alive again in me.
Frustration, anger, yes, all those negative things.
And I'm going to start acting passive aggressive to you. And so I'm going to start taking it out in ways that the other person's like, I hope she's okay. She's acting really weird. And I'm not going to understand it. And so I literally say that Talk RX is the book. When someone asks me, what is it about? I say our inability to communicate with ourselves and each other is literally making us sick.
Because you can, like what we talked about in the, middle of this episode with the stress response thing, it's like, if I'm being brutally honest with myself right now, like when I'm saying that stuff to my husband, or when I'm all pissed off, when I see that person's name on my caller ID, I can feel that stress response start to kick on, where I can feel that like tightening of my stomach, the tension in my shoulders. Like I can feel like this rage in my face. And it's like, that's not the chemical reaction or whatever's happening in my body, the cortisol, whatever else it is, like, is definitely not good.
No, and it's old. There was a time in your life growing up that I would bet it wasn't safe to speak up and be in conflict, that it really wasn't okay. And in fact, there was a way that you would have lost attachment to someone or something if you did it. And that is alive and well. The little girl in you, she's still trying to protect you.
I think that is a really awesome way to kind of bring this to a close, because I think that for so many of us, it ties this whole episode together, but two, it's something that so many of us can start to work on. And honestly, like, I'm going to go get your first book because I need it. And I'll link them all in the show notes, but I wanted to wrap the episode with the question that I ask every single guest. And this is such a good question, I feel like, especially for you, Dr. Neha, because you talk about burnout. And so the podcast is called Balancing Chaos because when I first started this whole company 3.5 years ago, almost 4 years ago now, life felt really chaotic. I had just had my first son. I was trying to be an entrepreneur and a coach and all of these different things, wife, mom, sister, and it felt like chaos. But I have somehow, in the midst of it, learned to balance it all. What is your number one tip for balancing the chaos?
To stay in constant communication with myself and be clean with others. So I have a 3-time rule.
Okay.
If something happens once and I'm a little bit startled by it or surprised by it, I notice it. The second time it happens, I mentally file it because it might be a pattern. And the third time it happens, a conversation's happening. And in that conversation, I have 3 examples that I can give you about why I am sitting down to have this, why you are important enough to me that I would lean into the discomfort so that you and I can elevate to the next level of comfort together.
I love that. I think that that's so powerful. And like what you said about staying in constant communication with yourself, I think that people are really resistant to that because it can look different for so many people. You hear meditation, journaling, all of these different ways that you can self-connect. But when you are in that place of self-connection, you can make so much more empowered choices where you're not going to be feeling like you're in this state of chaos. So I think both of those things are really, really great. So tell everybody where they can get your book. Personally, I love Audible more than reading because with 2 kids, I like listen while I'm driving and all of that. But we'll link them all up in the show notes as well. And then where people can find you on social media, your website, all of those things.
Sure. So that's intuitiveintelligenceinc.com, INC at the end. NehaSangwan.com. And right there, you'll find there's a book, you can get books, there's a learn, you can see, I'm sure I have more than 200 videos on YouTube. I do live coaching and I've been doing it for about a decade. And so these hundreds of videos, if you look up anxiety, you look up, walking on eggshells, look up anger, look up whatever you wanna hear about. Like we said, Talk RX is the first book. It's on communication with yourself and with others, and how do you have clear, concise, compassionate conflict, healthy conflict. And the second one is Powered by Me. You can get that anywhere, and that's From Burned Out to Fully Charged at Work and in Life. I am doing in London, I'm speaking at the World Happiness Summit. In June, I'll be at the Omega Institute for 1 week to do a live workshop on burnout, June 9th to the 14th. I would love to see you there. So if anybody's interested, go to events and you'll see what's coming up.
We will put all of this information in our podcast page, and I think that so many people could use that, like a live workshop. That's incredible, especially
5 days. I do it twice a year. I go public and do something, at one of the retreat centers. So this is a 5-day workshop on that. So it'll be a deep dive.
And what I love about something like that versus just like another random retreat is that I know that with you, people are going to walk away with the tools to implement that in their daily life, just versus just going to a retreat, feeling like you're relaxed for a few days, and then you go right back into your regular life where you feel burnout. So that sounds really, really incredible. Dr. Sangwan, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. This was a wonderful episode.
It was such an honor to be with you, Kelly.
I really hope that you enjoyed that episode. You can follow me on Instagram at Wellness by Kelly, or head over to our website, wellnessbykelly.com. Sign up now for the Wellness by Kelly 7-day free trial on our app, or head over to our course and now get 20% off the course or 10% off of the membership with the code Balancing Chaos, all one word, BALANCINGCHAOS. In our course, you'll get access to an emailed lab review plus protocols built out to help you heal with whatever hormonal imbalance you're struggling with. With our membership, you'll receive a library of content with our app with low impact workouts, blood sugar balancing recipes, and mindfulness meditations, all designed to help you balance your hormones and help you feel like you are living your most beautiful, joyful, and vital life. If you like the show, please leave a rating and review. That is the best way to help the show grow and get to more listeners. We hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next week.